Hello, trust you're well and having a good week. This week we looked at the latest claim of Jesus as we continued this series on what Jesus said about himself. And we looked at the claim that says, I am the bread of life, which is found in John chapter 6. It's one of the seven I am statements of Jesus in John's gospel. And this claim of I am the bread of life, I am the true bread of life that comes down from heaven. And Jesus talks about that those who eat this bread of life will never go hungry and never go thirsty. And we looked at the benefits on feeding on this bread of life, how it gives us life, how it sustains us, how it feeds us that we have not just enough for ourselves, but also enough to be able to give away to those that we meet as well. And then we spent some time looking at some of the things that we can sometimes feed on to get life from, and perhaps they're not so helpful, and whether we can put our foot on the ball and have a spiritual diet and think about the things that we can take out that we look to feed ourselves on, and rather than feeding on the bread of life, that sometimes we can feed on these things. And it's an opportunity for us to just think through those things and perhaps take away one or two things, and how we can refocus on feeding on the bread of life. Then we looked at the inclusivity of the bread, how the bread of life that comes down from heaven is for all people, from all nations, from all background. Earlier on in John's gospel, we see Jesus speaking to the Samaritan woman at the well, who'd been married 5 times in her 6th relationship. She's of another race, and Jesus is kicking down the barriers, and the people that he meets, the people that he engages with, he's showing that this bread that comes down from heaven is for all people, that anyone can come in, anyone can eat, anyone can benefit from this true bread of life that comes down from heaven. So we looked at the inclusivity of the bread and how it's open to all people from all places. And then we looked at some practical ways. How do we feed on the bread of life, and how we can make room during the week to be able to feed on the bread of life, not just on the Sunday as we hear the word, as we gather together and worship. That's definitely one way of feeding on Jesus. But there are many other ways as we gather, as we read scripture during the week, as we engage in Jesus and making him the center of all that we do in our work and our families, how we can feed on him throughout the week as well. And then a theme that runs right the way through John chapter 6 is the word believe. And for some people, when they hear Jesus' teaching on eat on me, eat of my body, drink of my blood, and you'll receive life, for some people it's a yes, and they want to follow Jesus, and they want to eat of Jesus and eat of the life that he gives. And for some people it's a no. Some people found the teaching too hard to accept. And I guess there'll be some people who had their questions that they wanted to ask more, to investigate more. Look, I hope you have a really good time discussing it, and have a great week. Speak to you soon.